Welcome back, everyone, to our second episode of Season 6 of the Truth and Freedom podcast, where awakening begins with asking the question most people are afraid to ask. I'm your host, Dr. Denem Zalag, and this is not just another podcast. This is a journey into awareness, courage, and truth. Many people believe freedom is something external. They think freedom comes from money, status, success, or the absence of rules and limitations. They believe that if they just had more opportunities, more resources, or a different environment, they would finally feel free. But history has shown us something remarkable. There have been people who possess great wealth and influence, yet lived as prisoners of fear, insecurity, or anxiety. And there have been others who lived with very, very little, yet carried an unshakable sense of inner freedom. So why is that, would you ask? Well, because true freedom is not determined by circumstances. It is determined by mindset. Freedom begins the moment you realize that your thoughts, your perceptions, and your beliefs shapes the way you experience life. Two people can face the exact same situation, yet experience it completely differently. One may feel defeated, trapped, and powerless. The other may see challenge, growth, and opportunity. The difference lies in how the mind interprets reality. Our minds are incredibly powerful. They can build confidence or create doubt. They can open doors or build walls. They can help us rise above adversity or convince us to remain stuck in fear. And often more than not, without realizing it, we allow our thoughts to become prisons. So think about how many people live their lives guided by invisible fears. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of stepping outside what others expect of them. These fears quietly shape the decision every single day of your life. They determine which dreams people pursue, which risk they avoid, and even how they see themselves. Over time, those fears can begin to feel like truth. But the reality is this. Most limitation begins in the mind long before they appear in the real world. When a person believes they cannot succeed, they stop trying. When they believe they are not worthy of love, they accept unhealthy relationships. When they believe they are incapable of change, they remain stuck in cycles that drains their energy and happiness. The mind becomes both the cage and the key. But here's the empowering truth. The same mind that creates limitation can also dismantle them. Freedom begins when you start questioning the thoughts that hold you back. When you stop accepting every negative belief as facts. When you challenge the internal voice that tells you that you're not good enough, not ready enough, or not capable enough. Many of the beliefs we carry were never truly ours to begin with. They were shaped by childhood experiences, cultural expectations, past failures, or criticism from others. Over time, those experiences became internal narratives. And without realizing it, we begin living according to them. But personal freedom requires awareness. It requires the willingness to pause and ask yourself an important question. Is this belief helping me grow, or is it keeping me small? Now, that moment of awareness is powerful, because once you recognize a limiting belief, you begin to loosen its grip of your life. Freedom of the mind also requires responsibility. It means understanding that while we cannot control every event that happens in our lives, we always have the power to control our response to those events. Life will bring challenges, there's no doubt about it. There will be setbacks, disappointments, losses, and unexpected obstacles. Those experiences are part of the human journey. But what defines us is not the difficulty itself. It is the mindset we bring to it. Some people allow hardship to convince them that life is unfair and that they are powerless. Others use hardship as fuel to grow stronger wiser, and more resilient. That shift in thinking is where freedom lives. A free mind does not mean a life without problems. It means a life where problems no longer control your identity or your direction. It means you recognize that your potential is greater than your circumstances. Freedom in the mind also means reclaiming ownership of your thoughts. It means refusing to allow constant negativity, comparison, or self-criticism to dominate your inner dialogue. Instead, you begin to cultivate awareness, gratitude, discipline, and purpose. You begin to speak to yourself with encouragement instead of condemnation. You start focusing on solutions instead of obstacles. You begin believing that growth is possible even when progress feels slow. And slowly, something powerful begins to happen. Your confidence grows. Your clarity improves. Your courage expands. You start making decisions based on your values instead of your fears. You stop seeking constant approval or validation from others and begin trusting your own inner compass. And that is when life begins to change. Not because the world suddenly becomes easier, but because your perspective becomes stronger. Freedom is not about escaping challenges. It is about developing the mindset that allows you to face those challenges with resilience, wisdom, and determination. When your mind is free, you're no longer controlled by every opinion, every setback, or every doubt that crosses your path. You become anchored in your own sense of direction. You begin living intentionally rather than reactively. So today, I invite you to reflect on those thoughts. What beliefs might be limiting your freedom? What fears might be influencing your decisions? And what stories about yourself might no longer be true? So remember this. The mind is one of the most powerful forces we possess. It can imprison us or it can liberate us. And the moment you begin becoming aware of your thoughts, challenging your fears, and choosing beliefs that empower your growth, you begin stepping into a life of greater freedom. Because freedom is not something you wait for. Freedom always begins in the mind. I'd like to thank you all for joining me today on the Truth and Freedom podcast, and also look very forward to continuing this journey of awareness, growth, and personal liberation with you in our next episode. Until then, my local friends, stay curious, stay awake, and stay free.